Sportsfeld. And usually I denote the passage of time in the opening of this. I'll be like, oh, it's yay and yay has happened. And now I'm just like, it's fucking November, basically.
Yeah. We're into the... It was cold this morning. And
Immediate weather. That's what people want.
Immediate weather. Every time.
You can't help yourself.
How do we... Fuck. I'm just outing myself as like, I'm just slowly turning into a boring white guy. Mm-hmm. Just like, first thing to talk about, what's it like outside?
Not like before.
No, before it was interesting stuff. Like, what's the weather going to be like? You know. I
was actually remarking on that with some of my 22-year-old coworkers. Ugh. I was talking about how I have a group chat with some old friends, and like, I would say 75% of the chat is whether or not it's going to thunderstorm. Because we live spread out across the province now.
Right.
So the weather patterns basically go from one end to the other. My friend who lives up north will say,
what's it like here? Yeah. What's this part of Ontario?
He'll say thunderstorm coming, and then one by one, people will say thunderstorms here down the...
Yeah, I had a long...
this is what aging is.
We went up to Cassie's aunt's place for Thanksgiving this past weekend, and they're up near Markdale. Mm-hmm. And their weather is different than our weather.
Certainly is.
And I spent a long time being like, weather's different there. I wonder what it's like on the way, and like how it... Spent a couple hours on Weather Network just looking at different...
Lake effect, baby.
Yeah.
It sweeps across Lake Huron.
It was fucking cold there.
It is. As a Lake Huron baby, it is cold up there.
It is. I guess that is in your direction, isn't it?
It's a snow belt, by the way.
Ooh.
Because you get the northern, I want to say Chinook.
Sure.
Wind.
Yeah, I'm going to say yeah.
Comes down off northern Ontario over Lake Huron, gets really, really cold, and then comes down. So a lot of the northwest weather patterns come from up there, and they're always usually cold because it's the north.
That was very informative.
And that's the weather.
Honestly, if anyone's listening to the show being like, get to the sports, then like you're listening wrong.
Nobody listens.
What are you doing?
Nobody listens to this show for the sports.
No.
Unless we have a good guest on.
Which we do today.
Today's one of those days.
It is.
Today we have the guest of guests, the king of kings.
The top guest.
The top boy, the absolute lad. Blake Murphy is here to guide us through yet another basketball season. Blake, welcome.
Hey, guys. I feel like I was here like 2 weeks ago recapping the championship.
It does seem like a short off. I mean, it was a short off season, but it does seem especially short.
Oh, baby. It's drinks day. We're drinking a lot of stuff today.
Yeah.
Speaking of what we're drinking coffee, we're drinking water. We're also drinking
Canadian Tire water.
Canadian Tire. They don't say that.
Oh, right. Sorry.
A different company wants their name said. Jake, show it to the camera. We are proud to present our brewery of the month this month is Blood Brothers, our favorite. Our favorite.
Yeah, absolutely.
Last week we had the beautiful, wonderful Under a House in northern Italy. Today we're drinking Autopop. It's a dry hopped Berliner Rice, 4% ABV. This Berliner is brewed with rice and lightly dry hopped Wakatu and Centennial. Expect a refreshing floral and lime aroma, balanced acidity, and clean finish. The low ABV makes this brew a perfect session sour. The Blood Brothers Bottle Shop, located at 165 Geary Avenue, open 7 days a week, noon to 11 p.m. But if you can't make it to the shop, get this. You can have it delivered to your home via their online bottle shop, bloodbrothersbrewing.com. Jake, open that bottle and pour.
I've just been staring at this very Tronny cool label the whole time.
Some Autopop.
Ding, ding, ding.
Some great background audio there.
Yeah.
Sounds like wind chimes.
How's this fucking...
You're killing it. This is great.
There we go. Everyone loves the sounds.
So anyway.
I'm really excited. So... You, Zoobs, you know this. I log all the beers that I try on Untappd. I just checked.
Oh, you're an Untappd guy?
Yeah, I'm almost at 1,000 uniques.
That's incredible.
Which is probably explains, the husky winter insulation I've got going here.
You look strong.
You look strong.
Yeah. None of my friends have checked in with this one yet. So I'm the first person that I have on Untappd.
How many friends do you have on Untappd?
I have no idea, but there's one guy who likes every time that I post. Like usually it's just the breweries go in and
reply guy.
And like, yes,
I definitely signed up for Untappd years ago and never used it. And occasionally get like an email being like, such and such is following an Untappd. It's like, well,
I have no idea how to see. I don't know. I've got there's a fair number of friends on there, I guess.
How can you not? You're Blake Murphy.
Yeah. Anyway, I'll be the first one to check in with this one.
Boom. So there you go.
It's that.
Blood Brothers Brewery, the brewery that Jake and I go to when we don't know what to order.
Because it's good.
Because it's delicious.
Are we trying this? Or I'm like an asshole.
I'm going to clean my palate first. I have coffee in the tongue.
Oh, okay. I'm just going to.
Smart.
Oh, yeah. I actually do. I guess I would too.
This is great. This is great radio.
Just pouring shit and drinking. We can edit this.
No.
Dylan Wilson will edit this. Who everyone loves.
Dylan. We love Dylan Wilson.
We love Dylan Wilson.
We're going to have a sip right now. Here we go. Autopop.
Boy.
Ooh, that's sour.
Kind of tastes like a grapefruit juice.
I love it. I'm not going to lie.
That's very nice.
It's definitely a good beer for 3 degrees outside.
Wow, some nice.
It is delicious though.
It stays in the tongue.
I will say, I've said this before.
Clean finish is correct.
I've said this before. I'm not a sours guy.
Yes.
But Blood Brothers sours, I don't mind.
Anyway.
They make good tasting sours, folks.
There we go. Beer 920 on Untitled.
Jeez.
920. Good God.
So
I guess you travel a lot too.
Yeah, and that's where it's helpful because it's like I can, if I'm in Philadelphia, I'll be like, I'll go to some random bar and I'll just look at what beers I might like from the app's suggestions. So it's helpful.
Cool. We get into basketball because by the time we do another episode, there will be regular season basketball.
Yes, that's true.
Game 1 is on Tuesday.
Wow.
The ring ceremony, the banner.
Banner raising.
The banner.
Finally, a banner that doesn't have to do with the Atlantic Division.
Or Bon Jovi.
Or Bon Jovi. Yeah.
That's gone now, though. Or it's.
Yes, but he has. If you go at gate 1, there's a Bon Jovi thing there still.
As long as it's out of the Raptors, it's fine.
Anyway, we are basically through the preseason. One more game. Friday. We expect Kyle Lowry to play on Friday?
Yeah.
There we go. So Kyle Lowry is going to play the whole lineup.
Be nice.
Yeah. Well, listen, he's earned it.
Yeah, they tend to, in the last preseason game, at least the first half is a dress rehearsal of sorts.
Right.
Get guys in what the rotation will kind of look like when things get started. And the fact that Gasol's only played a half and Lowry hasn't played at all, you'll probably get at least through maybe 3/4 of actual Raptors basketball. And Kyrie's playing.
So I'm going to go on a limb here and say that compared to Jake and I, you've had a little closer eye on the preseason.
I may have.
What can we, the laymen, the idiots?
Yeah, I think the idiots is the right word.
Yeah. What can we expect from the early part of the Toronto Raptors season in terms of maybe some guys whose usage is different and some guys who we have not seen yet that are making their entrance into the lineup?
Yeah, I think that the Raptors are set up to start the year in a way that's actually favorable to people who enjoyed the championship and then kind of tuned out because they only have 7 guys who are like 100% for sure in the rotation and have Nick Nurse's trust. And as he made very, very clear yesterday at practice, the other guys have not stepped up into those rotation spots 8 through 10, maybe. So the thing is like they lost Kawhi Leonard and they lost Danny Green, but 7 of their next 9 guys that were in the rotation are back. So there's going to be some consistency in terms of lineups you're a little familiar with, pairings you're a little familiar with. If we project Lowry, Powell, Anunoby, Siakam, and Gasol to start, and then you have Vanvleet off the bench, and you have Serge Ibaka off the bench. You already have and they might tweak those starters once in a while, but you already have a good idea of what this team looks like. So for people who tuned out around the championship, Kawhi and Danny are gone, but a lot of the other pieces are still the same. Yeah. There are some obviously new pieces brought in that are varying degrees of exciting. Patrick McCaw is also back, and they keep talking about him like he's a thing. And
I'm all in on Patrick. I've always been all in on Patrick.
I feel like telling Nick Nurse at some point, like, stop trying to make Patrick McCaw happen. It's like
he drained a 3 in the finals game.
He was talking him up as a potential starter. I loved Patrick McCaw at draft time and as a rookie, and he hasn't done anything over the last 2 years, and I don't know. I think he's a rotation guy, but I think the talk of him starting is I
feel like he's a good 12, 13 minutes a guy.
Yeah, I mean,
championship level player.
Never not won.
It's true.
Which is important.
It's good. He's going to win a 4th this year.
Is he getting traded at the deadline?
Sure isn't.
There are a few new pieces. Obviously, you asked in terms of who's going to have a bigger role. Well, Pascal Siakam is the guy to watch. I think everyone knows that. Last year, he had this ascendant season. He was a borderline all-star, didn't quite make it. Huge role during the playoffs, and it kind of kept growing over the course of the season. And any thought that, he did that because Kawhi was there is kind of inaccurate. His numbers were even better in the 22 games Leonard missed. There were times in the playoffs where Leonard was so consistently doubled that Siakam had to take on more of a scoring load. So he's going to be interesting to watch. I'm very confident that he has that other gear, and you're going to see him be an all-star this year. The questions are going to be more, is he going to be one of those lower end all-stars that are really good to have on the team, but you're not someone you're building around? Or can he reach high enough that you can build the offense around him? And that's not just scoring more. That's, can you create easy baskets for other people? Because he's going to have the ball in his hands a ton. He's going to have a lot of defensive attention coming his way. Last year, his usage rate was under 21%. That's going to have to go up around 26 to 28%. Not quite superstar level, but a substantial jump. And he's going to have to use some of that attention and some of that extra responsibility to, Kawhi wasn't the best at it. DeMar got pretty good at it. When those double teams come or teams are selling out to stop you, you've got to be able to pick out the teammates and get them easy baskets, because the guys around you aren't as good as you, and you need to help them out. And I think the Raptors, I think their starting lineup and the way their rotation is going to work, they have enough smart, talented passers like Kyle Lowry and Marc Gasol and Fred VanVleet, and even Siakam. Siakam's not a bad playmaker by any stretch. They're going to be able to do that. They're going to be able to cobble together some easier offense. We talked about last year how sometimes it seemed like there was the Raptors offense and then Kawhi offense beside it. I think you'll see more of a cohesive standard offense that should help with some easier buckets, but you're going to have to rely on guys. Kyle Lowry and Marc Gasol are going to have to shoot a bit more. OG Anunoby is going to have to take the step that I think we kind of expected him to take after his rookie year. And then, the back half of the rotation is kind of, not back half, but the last three spots in the rotation maybe are still wide open here toward the end of preseason.
To your point on the sort of Kawhi's, I don't want to say lack of playmaking, because I think that's not doing him justice, but like there was a lack of cohesion, let's say, last year that was talked about a lot and criticized a lot. Do you think that, to your point about DeMar became good at it after playing with the same guys for 7 years, do you think that because Pascal's come up through their system and has been on this team with these guys now for 3-4 years, that will be an easier transition for him if he's taking on those double teams and having to pass out? Or do you think it's just a skill that you have to have?
Yeah, I think it's a skill you have to develop. And the hardest part about it is like, you have to get reps, right? And I don't know if you guys remember early in the offseason, there was the whole argument about like I think it was Devin Booker was getting doubled in a pickup game or something like that.
I do remember that.
But it's like, it is kind of an unwritten rule if you're doing these offseason pickup runs, like you don't double a guy. So like, and in practice you can double a guy, but like you're going 80% speed in practice. So I think some of that you're just going to have to get the experience doing it. Siakam actually in his second year took a huge leap as a playmaker, and a lot of that was pushing the ball in transition and kicking out for easy shots. His assist rate didn't go up last year. His turnover rate nudged up slightly, so he didn't have much growth as a passer. But I think that's kind of the next step for him. Obviously, he's going to have to score more by volume, but his offensive game is for himself is in a pretty good place. So that's a big question to watch with him, is like when you go to do that spin move and they send a second body at you, can you make that smooth kick out?
Right.
If you're going to operate some pick and roll once in a while, can you find the roll man? That's stuff that a guy who is traditionally a power forward doesn't have a lot of reps doing. So that'll be really interesting to see. I'm optimistic based on what he's shown early in his career as a playmaker, but it's kind of the big question. It's a bigger question for me than whether he can score more. I think he can score more. Just by way of, he averaged 17 a game on pretty average
put
usage.
Up 30 in a finals game.
Yeah, he's good against Draymond.
Yeah.
He's going to be able to score. And like the way the Raptors are built, like regular season teams are not going to be able to do what teams in the playoffs try to do and like put Joel Embiid on him and dare him to shoot. Like he's going to have the ball too much. He's going to be operating pick and roll and dribble handoffs too much to just sit a center on him. So, but yeah, the passing and whether he can grow like that's almost always a reps thing if you're not a point guard.
You mentioned you have Norman Powell in the starting five. Do you think that is that's going to be the consistent five for the most part, or do you think they'll roll the Kyle Fred look? Yeah,
I think it'll be, Nick Nurse obviously always wants this fluidity, and I think part of the reason that he always talks about it is not so much that, there's value in being able to change your starting lineup and play different matchups. I think a lot of it, though, is culture-based, where you want guys being a little more open-minded, where, there's a stigma about coming off the bench, or there's a stigma about going down to the G League, and they're trying to erase all of that and have a more holistic approach to roles and development. If I were to guess, that's the starting lineup they use most frequently, the five I mentioned before: Lowry, Powell, Anunoby, Siakam, Gasol. I could see games where Siakam starts at the 3 and Ibaka starts at the 4. I could see games where they start smaller with VanVleet in Powell's place. I think they're going to try some different things. The issue with the VanVleet-Lowry pairing, I do think you can create their best 5-man unit with that, and I think that'll be the closing lineup a lot. The issue would be you have no other point guards on the roster. And you can
Right.
you can manage the rotation with 2 point guards starting, and Fred comes out quickly and then he runs the bench unit when Lowry comes off and things like that. But it's not it's not an ideal way to manage the rotation over 48 minutes. Say you start them both and they both pick up 2 fouls early on or something like that. Well, suddenly Terrence Davis or Patrick McCaw is your point guard. No offense to Isaiah Taylor or Campaign, but even if they make the roster as a third point guard, I'm not trusting that guy in a big role. So I'd be more comfortable with the rotation overall with Vanvleet coming off the bench, and then he's a guy that he's going to close out those games for you. Probably play the whole fourth quarter, lead the bench unit at the start, and then when Lowry comes back in, Vanvleet rides it out.
You mentioned Norm. Is there room to sort of not dream on, but is there room there to see him not take a leap, but to sort of show something new this year? Or is he basically, what we're getting?
Yeah, it's tough. I know people like to hope on Norm taking a leap, and obviously, he's not 35. He can still improve. There's a lot of ways his game can get better. He's also been pretty much the same guy for 4 years now. His 3-point percentage has fluctuated up and down, and that's kind of dictated how good he feels.
And also, like with Norm, like he has those in the playoffs specifically. There's 3 days a year where Norm Powell's the best basketball player on the planet.
He's a moments guy.
And then it's like, oh.
Yeah, he kills the Bucks and then comes through in the playoffs once in a while. I think he's, I think like big picture, he'd be, if you were drawing up everyone's ideal role on an average team, I think he's probably best off as like the third guard in a rotation, coming off the bench, giving you some scoring. His offensive game just like, it's not super well-rounded. He attacks well. He can hit knockdown threes and he attacks well, but he's not a great playmaker. And that was something that a lot of us were really excited about early in his career because he can break a guy down off the dribble so well, and he was kind of a combo guard, and he can defend point guards, but the playmaking's never really come. So he's a guy, though, that if his defense gets more consistent, he hit 40% of his threes last year, and most of those were above the break. If they move him to the corners more and he's getting more of those Danny Green style threes where it's just catch and shoot from the corners, he was a low mid 40s shooter from the corners last year. He can attack a closeout straight line along the baseline, and then if his playmaking improves a little bit, it's a pretty functional fourth or fifth starter still. I don't know that he's going to be closing games super often for them, just because I think Vanvleet has the strengths you're looking for from that position are stronger with Vanvleet in terms of secondary playmaking and 3-point shooting. But Norm can be a guy, man. If he's your fourth or fifth starter, you're not in bad shape or anything like that.
You mentioned now Fred Vanvleet, who I think is an interesting case in the sense that with Kyle Lowry on the roster and now extended, Fred is not going to be the starting point guard on this team. But he does have a deal expiring, and Lowry is 34. Do you feel like there's a point in this season where they have to sort of, like, Fred coming off the bench as a second point guard, is that enough of a look to know what they have in Fred, or to know if he can actually shoulder this role?
No, I think you can still get a good look at him. I think, the last 2 years he averaged 20 minutes a game. I think you can get that up to 30. I think he's going to start sometimes, whether that's for Powell, whether that's some Lowry load management. Lowry hasn't played a full season in a couple of years. There haven't always been major things. He's had a couple freak things happen, but you might want to get him some nights off anyway. But mostly I think if you look at how you'd best distribute minutes on this team, Vanvleet should be up around 30 anyway. And that's a pretty big jump, whether you're a starter or coming off the bench, going from 20 minutes a game to 30 minutes a game. Naturally, a lot more of those minutes are going to come against opposing starting lineups and starting point guards. So I think you can still get a pretty good look at how Vanvleet's growing, how he'd be in a larger role. The big things I'm going to watch for him, I don't have as many questions about the defense with his size. I think he's shown he can pretty capably at least chase those off-ball threats at shooting guard. He did a tremendous job on Redick while his shot, during that Philly series when he couldn't hit a shot at all, he was still doing a great job on Redick. He had a good defensive series against the Warriors, obviously shadowing Steph Curry. Steph Curry's going to get numbers, but if you can one-on-one Steph Curry with someone, you're in pretty good shape.
Didn't get the 3 that counted.
Yeah. So the bigger thing with his size and the question mark there is, can he finish around the rim? Because he's going to have the ball a lot. He runs a lot of pick and roll. Last year, it's hard to assign blame for this, whether it was Vanvleet's fault or whether it was the offense's fault and he had to bail them out. But he had a disproportionately large percentage of his shots came with the shot clock expiring. So obviously your percentages are going to be a little less because you have to bail out. But sometimes that's because the offense stalled out and it was, hey, Fred, do this. But sometimes it was also, he ran a pick and roll and nothing was there and he dribbled out the clock and stuff. And then because he's not a great finisher at the rim, those late clock shots are a little harder. So that's where I'm looking for growth from him. Can he run the pick and roll a little more seamlessly and get other people involved quicker in the shot clock? And then can he finish better around the rim? His 3-point shooting is awesome. And I think the lineups with him and Lowry, that's going to be their best way to, like, this team doesn't project to be nearly as good offensively as last year. Playing those two together is a good way to get some offense going, just with extra shooting and ball handling.
Is there a chance he becomes the first player in the league to play in sweatpants?
I hope so. That's a look all the Rico Hines runs all summer, and then in the open scrimmage as well, he just keeps the sweatpants on.
He looked awesome.
He looked great.
I love it. I don't see why,
why not?
What does the league care?
Guys playing sleeves now.
Yeah.
It's true. You heard it here first. Let them play in
Vanvleet.
sweatpants.
Yeah,
Playing
maybe
in sweatpants.
I wonder. You can obviously there are some guys who wear compression leg gear as well. Is there a sweatpant compression sleeve?
Gotta be.
Could he wear Lululemon pants and that
Yeah,
satisfies because they're compression?
As long as it has the logos on them, that's fine. That's what I feel.
Speaking
Plus,
of,
sorry to cut you off.
no, this is important.
If you're the league
way more
and you
important.
look at who makes up your fan base and your consumer base,
dads.
are
100%.
we more likely to buy sweatpants or basketball shorts?
I haven't bought basketball shorts in years.
100%.
Yeah.
100%. No question. Okay.
Sorry. Speaking of compression leg pants, OG Anunoby.
Nice segue. Dave.
Thank you. We know he needs, for this team to be anything close to legitimately competitive, we know he needs to take, if not a leap, at least a step. What is that step, do you think? For not necessarily for him to become an all-star or anything, but for him to take enough of a step to carry enough of a load that this team is all of a sudden goes from maybe they're in the middle of these to, oh no, this is a good team.
Yeah, it's a really good question, and it's obviously, other than Siakam, it's probably the most interesting element the Raptors have going on from a development side. He's still very young. They still have a lot invested in him with 2 years left on his rookie deal before even restricted free agency. So a lot of incentive to give him the rope to develop that. You've seen it in the preseason a little bit. They've given him a lot more ball handling duty. They've kind of let him, especially the last game when a lot of the starters sat, they were like, hey, go be Siakam. You're gonna run the bench unit for a little bit and have the ball in your hands, and then you're gonna be with the starters. But you can do what you see fit with them. He unleashed the Siakam spin move a couple times to inconsistent but kind of fun. He's so much stronger than everyone. That the spin move is almost like Woodley asked for cliff notes on the game from that game the other night. I was like, yeah, OG's the Tasmanian devil now. He's just going to spin into things, and sometimes the ball's going to go in. Sometimes he's going to get to the free throw line. But no, I think he's such a tough case because as a rookie, he was really encouraging, and he already looked like the 3-and-D piece that you kind of projected, you kind of hoped he could become when they drafted him 23rd. And I think expectations got pretty high because he was good out of the gate, and he showed, he checked the boxes you're looking for.
He's good in the playoffs too.
Yeah, he was the only one who wasn't phased, kind of.
Yeah.
Now last year, I'm always torn on OG's sophomore season because, the numbers suggest it was a really poor step backward, and that pretends not great things about his future. But he also had tragedy off the court and 4 different injuries, and never really got that consistency where he was playing 30 games in a row in the same role. So I'm willing to look past it a little bit more. There are still some signposts you need to see improve, like that 3-point percentage. You'd like to see it back up in the high 30s instead of mid 30s. The free throw percentage being down around 60% is a little worrying just when you're projecting future 3-point percentage. But the big thing is he's got to, I think if you're a Raptor fan, you can almost reset your expectations to where they were after his rookie year. You're not throwing out his second year. You're not, that's 65 games of important data about a guy. But if you were optimistic about him after his rookie year, I don't think there was no skill erosion. There was no oh, this guy just forgot how to play or anything like that. It was just a tough year. And I think if you reset your expectations to where they were after his rookie season, that's fine. And that's not him becoming Siakam. That's him growing from pretty useful 3-and-D guy on a 59-win team to like maybe your expectation for this year is like high-end 3-and-D guy. And if he can add a little bit of the off-dribble stuff and a little bit of the he's like an underrated passer too when he attacks out of a closeout or when he cuts and finds an open teammate. So there are ways to fit him in the offense that aren't just, hey, here, create one-on-one.
Right.
So I would say, the whole Siakam's growth has warped everyone's perception of what growth normally looks like. Siakam's like a 3 times a decade case of player development that it's like him and Giannis. And then if you want one more comp, like Draymond came out of nowhere like that. It's like, yeah, you can't project guys to do that normally. But I think OG can get back to being like a really effective 4th starter.
That's everybody you know. We're going to dig a little deeper to some of the guys maybe you don't, and then trip around the league in just one moment. So not very quickly, but quickly for
in like
us.
the grand scheme of
Yeah. A great trip just there around the guys that we know of and the guys that we expect to take leaps. Blake, in your mind, you just wrote a big thing about Terrence Davis. Some of the guys in the bottom half of the rotation, you talked about how there are 7-8 guys that are guaranteed their spots right now, which means there are 7-8 guys that are not guaranteed their spots. How do you see the bottom part? Because, I mean, geez, if you're going to talk bottom of the rotation, who do you talk to but Blake Murphy?
Right.
About guys that I will never learn about until they're good.
Except Matt Thomas.
Blake knows about them first. That's right. Through, I mean, a very limited sample size, but also through some camp. Who's caught your eye and who has maybe caught your ire?
I think Terrence Davis is the guy who stands out. He's such a Raptor, like with his backstory and being undrafted and like being slept on, and Fred and Norm are already mentoring him and stuff. He's such a culture fit. And then you look at what this team needs, and it's like, okay, well, third point guard and backup shooting guard are like probably the spots that you're looking. And that's where Davis projects. He's got a little bit of, he can create a shot for himself, which is really good. He's hyper athletic. He's really explosive. They're trying to get him more point guard reps. That's a work in progress. It's not a position he's ever really played before. So you're going to have to live with some mistakes when he's at the point guard position, but he's at least, he tries to bake the right things there. And because he's so young, you can live with those mistakes more than you can from a veteran guy making them. And then I think, he can shoot it a little bit, and he's a pretty solid, if inconsistent perimeter defender. So he's a guy that, maybe not out of the gate. Like, I think on merit alone from camp, from what we've been able to see at least, he would open the season in my rotation. The question for them would then become, is he better served playing 8 to 10 minutes at the back of the rotation, or should he go down to the 905 for a month like Norman Pascal did, play 40 minutes a game with all the touches you can handle, be the team's main point guard to work on those skills, and then come back up in December, and then suddenly, you're a more versatile and a more useful back-end rotation player. I'm not sure what their thinking is on that. If I were them, I think whichever of him and Matt Thomas don't crack the rotation, I would have down in the 905. Thomas has had some good moments offensively, and I know everyone's really excited about the three-point shooting. I think the speed and the size of the NBA game is going to be a bit of an adjustment. Not that EuroLeague basketball isn't super competitive, but the way spacing works there and the way teams try to sell out to stop a shooter is a little bit different.
Man, if Matt Thomas starts the season down the 905, Raptors Twitter is gonna fucking melt down.
But I don't think it's like
I don't think that's true.
I do.
I don't think it's a bad thing. Like this guy's coming over from EuroLeague basketball, and it's a different style of game. Like the rules are a little different. The 3-point line's a little different. How offense is run is a little different. I think the Raptors would prefer him to start the season on the NBA roster, even if it's not in the rotation. Like, best case scenario for Thomas for this year is probably he plays the old CJ Miles role in the bench unit, where it's like, okay, your defense isn't that great, but you have good defenders around you, and this bench unit needs shooting so badly that most of our plays will be designed with you running around so that it just creates chaos, and something easy is open elsewhere. Jakob Poeltl could just eat on offensive rebounds. Maybe Boucher's that guy this time, or Serge Ibaka's that guy this time. So I think that's the best case for Thomas. He has not acquitted himself super well on defense, which you'd expect. But, if you look at that bench lineup, and there's also, Fred and Rondé and Serge and Boucher, like, maybe it's okay. McCaw's the guy who I think they would love to lock down that backup shooting guard spot. He's been pretty unimpressive. He's been McCaw. To your point earlier, like if he's your 11-12, cool. Right now is at 8, 9, 10. He hasn't quite performed to that. And then the issue is, of course, that as Nick Nurse made very clear, Stanley Johnson and Rondae Hollis-Jefferson have not been super impressive. Stanley Johnson's been like a borderline disaster so far. I've liked Hollis-Jefferson better. He just has like the thing with Hollis-Jefferson is like it never looks like he's playing well because he's out of control and does weird things all the time. But then he makes so many good plays and proper plays. Like he's a great offensive rebounder. He's a good passer. He's a big hustle for loose balls guy. And then defensively, like he makes mistakes, but he's all over the place. So sometimes he can make up for them and stuff. And he has more of it. Like he has a track record of being a good defender. So I would think that Hollis-Jefferson is ahead of Johnson for the backup forward minutes. I think actually Boucher's had a good enough camp that they might consider him being the first forward off the bench. Obviously, he can't play the 3 really, but if Siakam or OG are out there with him and he's playing the 4 alongside Ibaka, suddenly you don't have to worry as much about his strength issue at center. He can help on the glass from the power forward position where Ibaka's not an elite rebounder. And then his offensive game is better suited to just be like a play finisher right now, but he can spot up a little bit, or Serge can spot up. I think the fire Nurse tried to light the other day was directed at Johnson and Hollis-Jefferson, and if they don't get that message, I could see Boucher being a little ahead of them.
Love that message though. How many fucking years have we sat the Raptors and just like play harder, or, like knock someone down? It's nice to see. I think his point about making through 2 months of the playoffs and seeing how hard you have to play to actually win a title. Like Kawhi aside, the basketball is different. Yeah, it's like, and I think a lot of guys don't go through that. A lot of guys aren't used to that idea, and I think that quote almost made me more hopeful for the season as a whole.
Yeah, and I think it's Nurse has done that very rarely. There have been a couple times where he's been like pretty critical, but not very often. Like you can remember them and count them. I think that makes it more effective when he does let it loose. But yeah, I think it's a good message to send, and I think it's, I don't think it hurts any. Like I don't know Johnson and Hollis-Jefferson and the other guys well enough personally yet to know whether that's a motivating factor or some guys respond to that stuff well, some guys don't. But speaking the truth like that, like there are rotation spots open on Tuesday, and it's got to be pretty frustrating to not know who your 8th and 9th man are going to be on Tuesday. So, yeah, I get it. The interesting one here, not to get too deep.
No, please get deep.
Is based on the way everyone has played and based on the way Nurse has used his preseason rotations, which obviously you can't look too much into. If Malcolm Miller wins the 15th roster spot, he might be ahead of those guys in the rotation. He's in a weird spot where because his contract is only has a small partial guarantee, and because the Raptors need a third point guard and have Payne and Taylor also competing for that 15th spot, he's not really in control of his own destiny. Like whether or not he makes the rosters is basically going to come down to whether or not the Raptors feel they have to have a third point guard. But if Miller makes the team, he might have more faith from Nurse than Johnson and Hollis-Jefferson right now. So he might, suddenly he jumps from being the guy competing for the 15th role to like the 11th man or something like that. So he's in an interesting spot.
Well, to Nurse's point about working hard in the playoffs, he was there.
Yeah.
He knows what it is.
Yeah. Now they still want him to be, a little more aggressive and things like that, but he's had a pretty good season. Like I think he's like 5 of 11 on threes, and that's all you can do if you're that guy, right?
So quickly, as quickly as we can.
Yeah.
We're not going to be able to do a full league preview.
No, who's coming to us? Talk about
Blake is here. Blake is here, not us.
Yeah, I guess that's true.
Nobody's coming to us for anything.
No, that's a good point.
Other than like
nonsense,
dick jokes in the mailbag, which we will get to. But around the league, if there are some, it's hard to give you 2 things to talk about and say talk about 2 things. But if there's anything that looking at it on a big view intrigues you coming out of the gate that you were, other than like Zion Williamson or something like that, what are you looking for in the first month that you just sort of like you can't wait to see how it looks or how it works? Lots to pick from. The league is completely different than it was last time you were here. What are you excited about in the NBA?
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned Zion. This is like a deep cut of things to be excited for. Nikhil Alexander-Walker looks awesome. Like he's going to be
really good.
Like Brandon Clark looks good with Memphis too, but Nikhil is like maybe going to be the best Canadian rookie, and you're going to want to watch the Pelicans all the time because of Zion. And
He's really turned the Pelicans from like, oh, they'll be okay with Zion to like, oh, this team's good.
Yeah, and I mean, like they have Drew Holiday, who's really good too, and they signed Redick, and they're in good shape.
They're making the playoffs. That's fine.
Yeah, they're fringy. Like I think they'd have to start pretty well to like if they start poorly or they're mediocre, like you might want to sell off a veteran or two just to keep an eye on the future or whatever. But they had a great offseason. They drafted really well. Nikhil looks awesome. So as much as answering Zion is an obvious answer, like the Pelicans are going to be really fun. I think a lot of the like fringy West teams are going to be really fun. I think the Mavericks are going to be really fun. Your Kings,
My Kings, they're doing it. They didn't do anything especially dumb.
Wait. Your Kings?
I love the Kings.
Really?
Yeah, Kings news.
Yeah.
Huh. All right.
I've loved the Kings since I was like, in high school.
I mean, I guess
Jason Williams.
Those Chris Webber Kings years with the Lakers were very
White chocolate.
our formative years. Yeah.
Jason Williams was my favorite player growing up.
Yeah, I think a lot of
I
the
hated Jason Williams.
White chocolate?
Yeah, I don't know why.
Unbelievable.
Man, oh man.
I don't know why. I never liked him when I was younger.
Jeez.
unbelievable.
Off the elbow passes? You wanted the fundamentals.
I did.
You wanted
I was a Tim Duncan guy, baby.
Oh my
John Stockton over
Love the
Jason.
Spurs.
goodness gracious.
Yeah, I think a lot of those fringy West teams are going to be fun. In the East, the guy I'm probably most interested to see is Jonathan Isaac. Like, I think Raptors fans got a good look at him.
Totally.
In the playoffs last year, I think he projects to be a guy. Like, if I had to pick right now, I think he'd be my pick for most improved. And he's kind of a funky, unique guy to where if things click, he's going to be there aren't a lot of guys like him. I think him and the Magic are interesting. Not that they're going to be, they're not going to win the East or anything like that, but I think they'll be pretty fun. I'm trying to think who else is obvious. Like there are obvious ones.
Yeah.
Clippers.
Yeah. I don't want
bad.
to watch the Clippers.
They're gonna be bad.
They're not going to be bad.
What did you guys think?
They're
of
gonna
those,
be worse than their expectations.
What did you guys think of those Grand Theft Auto jerseys?
I hate
Not
them.
great. Not great.
I don't
Yeah.
like them. I do not like them.
Yeah, the interests include old school hip hop ass jerseys.
Yeah. Listen to Run the Jewels ass jerseys.
Yeah. There's lots to be excited for, man. Like
course.
obviously the Lakers are going to be some level of intrigue.
The Lakers, if nothing else, will be entertaining, and I'm not sure that's necessarily on the court.
Yeah, I don't know. I wish like the Nets would be more interesting if KD was playing. I still think they'll be fun, but without KD, I don't think they're like meaningfully good yet. I'm trying to think. There's a lot. It's the NBA, man. All 30 teams have something.
It is kind of
fun
interesting how
everyone but Phoenix has something fun to look forward to.
we talk a lot on the show about the Major League Baseball and how there's like 9 teams maybe that are anything resembling interesting. And it's kind of crazy. The NBA is like 25, 26 teams deep of like, even if they're not necessarily going to be good, they're at least going to be interesting. There's something to talk about and there's something to one or two players to focus on, where it's just like, oh, this team's bad. Like that doesn't really exist anymore in the NBA other than the Suns.
Yeah, I mean, the Suns, I have a lot of love for Ricky Rubio, but I don't know that the Suns are going to be super interesting, but they might score a lot of points.
I'm going to give up a lot more.
Yeah. DeAndre Ayton might realize that, you can't put the controller down on defense, but
Sure you can. Okay, quickly, around the table. Everyone is being asked this, including myself. Raptors. We're going seed, wins, playoff result.
Oh, am I starting?
No, anybody can. I'll start. Hell, I'll start.
You do it.
I'll go 53.
Okay.
Ooh.
Yeah, 53. 3 seed. And I think
That's a lot of wins for a 3 seed.
yes, it is. I expect
Philly and Milwaukee to be
52.
very good.
52. How about that?
Sure.
I'll walk it back.
I'm not trying to
52.
Yeah. It's a good East, the good top of the East.
It's a good East.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it's gonna be top heavy. 52, 3 seed. Third round. They surprise some teams. They bully a team in the first round, upset somebody in the second round, and then boom.
I'm going even 50
Even
on
50.
wins.
Now I'm the optimist. What happened here?
Also a third seed, though.
Yes.
I agree that they're a third seed. I am going to say I'm just doing seeding in my head of who plays who.
Like, gonna drag this back.
Yeah. Okay. Third seed, and I'm also going to say third
Look at
round.
this.
Because
copying my work and
I
changing
think
it
they beat whoever they play in the first round. I think the second round they get matched up against Philly, who I have no faith in. And I think Marc Gasol ends Joel Embiid's life again, and then they lose to Milwaukee.
Yeah. Do you see Chucky T in the Ben Simmons
Yeah, I
jersey,
did.
by the way? Blake, this guy hits one preseason three, and suddenly we've got wrestlers wearing his jerseys.
Blake, be smart and realistic. What's the actual answer?
I can't remember if I predicted 47 or 48 wins, but it's right around. I'll say 48. I think that would probably be enough for the 3 seeds still.
They're being the 3 seed.
The way it lines up.
The East, as to Zoop's point, the bottom half of the East is not great.
Yeah, it's just flat. It's not terrible. It's just like teams, even if you started at number 3, like 3 through 10, there's not a ton of separation. And like I'd have those split into 2 tiers, but I wouldn't feel strongly about the separation between tiers. Like Miami could be good. Boston could be good. If Oladipo's healthy, Indiana could be good. There's just a lot of teams that could get their way to like mid 40s wins. So yeah, I'd have them out in the second round. Unfortunately, I think Philly and Milwaukee both have question marks, but you project some growth for those sides. You assume the 76ers, maybe naively, assume the 76ers will handle Joel Embiid's workload a little bit better so that he's a little fresher for the playoffs.
Alive?
Yeah, and maybe they acquire a bench player or 2 over the course of the year. I think Giannis is obviously going to be like an MVP contender again. I didn't love Milwaukee's offseason moves, but Giannis solves a lot of those problems. And then my issue with projecting the Raptors to go too far is like it's not the average scenario, but like maybe the 30th percentile outcome where things aren't going amazingly early on, even if they're hovering around 500, and then they sell a piece because they're focused more on the future. And like they could still be a playoff team that way, but if they deal one of Gasol or Ibaka around the deadline, and then they only end up winning low to mid 40s, maybe they're not as much of a threat in the playoffs. So on balance, I don't want to project them to go too far because those scenarios exist.
Nobody will hold you to it. I'll say that.
No, I picked the Warriors last year. No one's mentioned it.
That's true. All right. That is as serious as we're going to get on the end of this show.
That was real sports talk.
It's time to crank up the dumb. We have Song of the Week, Match of the Week, Does This Freak You Out, and the Mailbag right after this. Alrighty, it's time to get silly. Let's get silly. Before we get silly, we have a merch update.
Merch.
There's only 2 weeks left to get the Boba Fett t-shirts until they're gone forever.
Because October is ending.
We are halfway through Oct. Yeah, 17 days in. Sportsfeld.ca, get your limited edition Boba Fett X Star Wars shirt. Neither of those things are copyrighted for us. So your lookalikes, Boba Fett and
that's there.
Space.
We all know what they
Space Adventures. If that isn't your bag, by the way, if you're not into that kind of thing, which fair enough.
Yeah.
We have other designs like an NB style Not Sad t-shirt
I think
that I love.
I really like that one too. I think we might need to change up the Spurs Not Sad one to Sad though.
Sportsfeld hoodie. Sportsfeld.ca. Go to the merch. Buy some merch.
Yeah, buy some merch.
Buy so much merch.
Buy a bunch of merch.
Buy an embarrassing amount of merch and then just give it away.
You know what? It's like 2 months to Christmas.
Great stocking stuffer.
Yeah, need some merch.
Put them in your Halloween bucket. To
Dress up as us
give them to
for
kids.
Halloween.
We'll say it. In the advertisements you've probably seen if you listen to the show. Obviously, we didn't pay those models to wear the shirts.
Which did confuse me for the first couple days.
Yeah.
I won't lie. I had to ask.
But there are some funny, like, kid goes out for Halloween as somebody in a Sportsfeld shirt.
Yeah.
Which is like, that's not a costume.
It's absolutely a costume. I have worn worse costumes.
Sportsfeld listener, the costume.
I have worn shittier Halloween costumes out to Halloween parties.
Anyway.
I mean, Zoobs and I at any time could just go as the revival.
Yes,
we don't
did
even need a
that for a
costume.
while.
I once wore pajamas to a bar and said I was a blogger. So I worked real hard.
Not bad.
Yeah.
I just once put a hockey helmet on and I was like, I'm a hockey player.
Yeah.
And like that was
I had 3 years in a row of just writing Florida on a piece of paper and putting it on my stomach and said I was Ralph Wiggum.
pretty clever.
No, it wasn't.
Pretty clever.
It's lazy because I don't like dressing up. But
Yeah,
you should dress up as Sportsfeld listeners.
It's been a couple of years since I dressed up for anything for Halloween.
Yeah.
Because I'm 34.
Yeah.
Anyway, not that if you're 34 and you like dressing up, go for it. But like
It's not my thing.
Halloween house party part of my life is over.
I'm definitely down for the Halloween house party. I just don't want to have to put in the effort to have a costume.
See, I'm the opposite way. I like dressing up, but I will do all the way or nothing at all. I can't do a half-assed.
Yeah.
I'll either show up in my normal clothes or I will do a really good costume.
I'm just like, I like parties. So I'm like, I will, whatever the least amount of effort is, to not be like an outlier at this party is.
Right on cue, our most recent one is It's a Witch
Hey.
who listens to Sportsfeld.
Perfect. Our target demo.
It's your goth girlfriend. Okay, song of the week, match of the week. Does this freak you out? Jake, song of the week.
My song of the week this week is a song called Radio Cure by a little band called Wilco. I'm reading Jeff Tweedy's book right now, and it's really fucking good. I realized as I've gotten older that I'm a big musician autobiography book guy.
Makes sense.
I don't really read fiction that much anymore. But most of what I read are either autobiographies or biographies of musicians and bands that I like. And this one is an autobiography and is extremely funny and well written to the point where it's rare for me to find a book where I'm like, I need to read this at all times. And I've been doing that, and it's a really great book, and it's making me listen to a lot of Wilco, which is never a bad thing.
Weren't they just here?
Yeah, I saw them 2 weeks ago. They were great.
With the Raptors chevron north.
Right.
Yes, poster and shirt. They took the North jersey and turned it into Wilco jersey. They always have a thing I love about Wilco is that every show they do, they get an artist to design a unique poster for the city they're in. Which,
nice.
Of my opinion, if you're a band that is playing, 5,000 seat venues and you have the money to have merch, you should have different merch for each city. I think it's a nice thing to do.
Speaking of great merch, sportsfeld.ca/merch. You get unique merch.
That was great. What a segue.
Thank you.
Buy some merch.
Buy some merch.
Capital.
What are you doing?
Look,
Buy merch.
if we're all going to be slaves to capitalism,
Buy merch.
do it for us.
The only ethical consumption under
only
capitalism.
one.
Absolutely.
Sportsfeld.ca.
It's for us. Sportsfeld merch. Match of the week, I'm going to go with a match from AEW Dark.
Shocking.
If you don't know what AEW Dark is.
I read an article about AEW this week. You'd be proud of me.
Did you?
Yeah, it was about how WWE's fucking up and AEW's kind of dope.
That is correct.
AW is kind of dope.
Super dope. They also do this thing. There's a thing, Jake, called dark matches.
Okay.
They are matches that occur before and after television shows. Dark because the quote unquote lights aren't on. Lights are on. The cameras aren't on.
Yes.
Now, what AEW has done is turn those dark matches into its own show. So
How?
It's
This
on
seems
it's on
seems
YouTube.
contradictory.
It's on YouTube.
But the cameras are on then.
Yes, it's not part of the television show.
I see. Okay.
So the television show comes out on Wednesdays.
So it's like an undercard that's not televised.
Correct.
Okay.
So the show comes out on Wednesdays live.
Right.
And they record dark matches afterwards. The following Tuesday, you get the dark matches from the week before.
That's smart.
It's really smart.
That's really good marketing.
It's really, really smart.
So who is in charge of AEW?
Tony Khan, the owner of...
Oh, right. Okay.
TK.
Tony Khan, call me back.
Tony Khan, call Blake.
Right.
Answer your Instagram DMs. DM requests.
Tony Khan is in charge of AEW.
I think I've realized I'm reading this article that I'm fully on board for AEW. I'm like not going to watch it, but I'm on board for it because I'm always a fan of someone taking money out of its man's pocket.
It's if I were... We've often said this, but if I were a billionaire, Tony Khan is doing what I would do.
Just start a wrestling league and
pay all my favorite wrestlers all the money they want. We're going to have a wrestling show now.
Yeah. That should have been season 3 of Succession.
Yes.
Kendall just goes off and starts a wrestling company to piss his dad off.
Anyway, match of the week is Joey Janela against Kenny Omega. They just kick the shit out of each other.
Kenny's in AEW.
Kenny is in an AEW.
Yeah.
Huh.
So this is part of it. Like it's funded by the Khan family,
right?
But it's basically the wrestlers have seized the means of production. Cody Rhodes, the Young Bucks, Kenny Omega, their little group had put all this together and then got Tony Khan on board. So it's kind of obviously it's still owned and run by a billionaire, but which has helped get them on TNT immediately and stuff like that. But it's it's kind of a by the wrestlers.
Are they perhaps treated better than they are in, say, WWE, where they're just kind of like, you're hurt, fuck off?
That's what they've said.
Yeah.
That's the hope long term. They're 3 weeks in.
Right.
So
We will see. But also, I will pat myself on the old back because last week I talked about how my match of the week was just the show Dynamite.
That's right.
Because WWE television is dumb and bad and it's not fun television. And I said the words, how often do you put on WWE and the show starts with 20 minutes of talking? AEW started out with 20 minutes of just unbelievable matches last week.
Will they need...
Which is smart.
Will they need some sort of like WrestleMania-esque event to sort of compete?
They'll have 3 or 4 pay-per-views over the course of the year. That'll, in addition to the weekly show.
Right.
So great to have Blake here. Be smart about stuff. Anyway.
I don't know. If this is like the one that's kind of fucking with Vince McMahon and WWE, the only wrestling I ever watch is like once a year going to someone's house for WrestleMania. So
Of course.
I would hope that this would have some sort of similar.
Yeah, theirs will be
event.
they'll probably keep All In as the main one, right?
Yes, I would assume
They
so.
launched with a pay-per-view.
Okay.
And I think they did 4 pay-per-view events before their TV show got up and running.
Gotcha.
So I think the big one, All In, will be kind of
It's same idea.
they're like signposts.
They have silly
of-
storylines. Same idea. kind of
Yeah.
thing. Cool.
Yeah, they have some silly storylines and then also some storylines where it's just like, no, like I need this win because I want the championship. And it's like
Right.
crazy how smoothly stories go when you just simplify them to, yeah, I don't like you and I want to kick your ass, or I want to be the champion, so I'm going to going to fight you for the championship.
They talk like people talk. They don't talk in like a weird cadence that no human being would ever talk.
Le champion.
Le champion. Jake, here's the question from me to you. Does this freak you out?
Probably.
When you eat pineapple,
Oh no.
it also eats you. Pineapple has an enzyme called bromelain. Bromelain. Enzyme that digests protein, i.e. your tongue and mouth. If you left pineapple in your mouth, you would start bleeding.
What?
There's an enzyme.
No. I'm the enzyme doesn't concern. I know that's the reason behind it, but
Yes.
like, how long? What? Yes, that freaks me out.
It's often the enzyme in pineapple is often used as a meat tenderizer because it breaks down protein.
Wow.
Yeah. So if your mouth
Is that why, like, if you make like a slow cooked pork with like pineapple in it, it becomes very tender because it breaks it down?
yes.
Wow.
If your mouth has ever felt sore after eating a bunch of pineapple,
Yeah, for sure.
it's because literally the protein in your mouth is breaking down because of the pineapple.
I'm gonna say that absolutely freaks me out, but it's also not gonna make me stop eating pineapple.
Of course, no, that's
No,
not.
it makes sense. I think it helps pineapple be a digestif as well.
Man, if Blake here just like
Why am I even on the show?
elevates the shit. Why are any of us on this? There's just be Blake's show.
Like, what are we going to throw at him that he won't have a really smart answer for?
Yeah, it's true. There's no topic.
No, I saw some of the mailbag questions. I won't have a good answer for some of those.
That is true.
Potatoes is Blake's only thing.
Yeah.
And cheesecake.
Right.
Anyway,
And a lot more stuff.
I'm not convinced.
but the rest of it, the rest
Yeah,
of it
that's
is
fucked
just,
up.
Just brilliance.
I think like the idea that like a food has an enzyme that breaks things down in you doesn't really freak me out because I assume there's lots of weird enzymes and proteins and lots of things. The leaving it in your mouth and you start bleeding part, that
Right.
That's-
It's not just regular acid.
yeah, that's what I mean. Like it's not just like yes, pineapple is an acidic fruit and you can kind of feel that, but when it's like, oh, it's literally gonna harm you.
Here's
So
what
how
we
do
take
we-
away from this. Old school wrestling, you blade, then you progress to using blood capsules.
pineapple.
Now guys are just going to keep pineapple in their mouths, and then by the end of the match, their mouth will be bloody and they'll be able.
In a delicious way to wrestle.
Yes.
Like how does it not like I guess is our stomach acid stronger than their acid then?
I would guess so.
That seems like a battle that I don't necessarily need to be fought. Like
But you just said you're not going to stop.
I'm not, but I just in my mind it's like there seems like obviously there's not
whole lot
risk
going on in
associated
there,
to it
yeah.
because like people eating pineapple
Swallow
whatever,
it.
and like no one's died, but like
Yeah.
it's crazy that you just swallow and it's like this is my smart observation as Blake's being intelligent. It's like it's crazy when you swallow food, it's just fine.
Where does it go?
How does food become waste?
Energy. Okay. So it does freak you out. Sorry.
Yeah, totally. That's a great one.
Be careful next time you eat pineapple.
I won't, but like there's probably my
Just
fridge
make
right
sure
now.
you swallow it.
Also, a fun fact about pineapple: if you have a sore throat, eat some pineapple.
Because the enzymes.
Is that what it? How?
I have no idea.
But it helps your it helps your sore throat.
Probably the enzymes.
Huh?
I don't know.
Eats away at the virus.
Proteins.
Science. Proteins.
It's all about proteins.
Science. Yeah, I don't know.
We move on to the mailbag because you are freaked out and everything else is done. First question comes from TCJ, which stands for Tom Cruise Jr.
I'm calling bullshit on him being Tom Cruise's son.
The photo is a
Isn't his kid's name Siri?
Furby.
I don't know.
The question is,
Surrey?
the question
Not
is,
Siri. Siri's a phone.
yeah. The question is, now that Serge Ibaka is universally beloved, which is true, which Raptor will be the most likely guy that fans become exasperated with this season? If you remember, Serge was the Serge.
I got some news for you. It's still Surge.
No, it's not. It's going to be Patrick McCaw. Because
You
Patrick
think we can get enough minutes
Yeah,
for?
I think he's going to start the season. It's going to be, at least early on, it's going to be a big, why is Patrick McCaw playing 15 minutes again? And I don't hate Patrick McCaw. Like, I think he's fine. But the Raptors seem to like him more than I do, and definitely more than Raptors Twitter does. I think it's the McCaw, why is he still in the rotation?
Okay. far be it for me to disagree with Blake on anything Raptors related because I'm going to be wrong.
I feel like Serge just has too much goodwill built up at this point. Like, he's coming off the bench, so how much harm can you do? He's got the How Hungry Are You show. He's like,
I'm not saying he's not
he's
likable.
funny now.
I love Serge Ibaka on and off the court, but I've historically been very frustrated with him on the court. I could see if the Raptors are actually like somewhat competitive. We're hit like February, March when they're playing some games for seeding. And then Serge just has one of his Serge games where he goes like 0 for 9 and doesn't play defense. And it's going to be like, oh.
Yeah, but the next game he'll inexplicably be like 12 of 14 on 20-foot jumpers.
That's the exact Serge Ibaka's exasperation. Never been he's terrible. And well, I guess there was a stretch there where he was terrible and unplayable. But like the whole thing with Serge is that one day he'll be unplayable and the next day he's the best player on the floor. Like for me, at least, that's where the exasperation with Serge comes from. So I think it's still going to be Serge, just differently.
I'm going to give it to Norm Powell.
Yeah, I've kind of been waiting for that to happen just because like everyone's expectations were so high out of the gate.
But don't you think that expectations on Norm are just kind of set now?
They should be.
Right.
But
well,
I still get asked pretty frequently about like, what about a Norm breakout? And it's like, yeah, he's 4 years in. He's
even
26.
I asked that.
Yeah.
I don't know that people turn just because like, I don't know. I feel like Norm is well liked and most people have come to be reasonable about it. But there are still those people who his rookie year were like, oh, he's the next Westbrook.
They had that dunk.
Yeah.
This question comes from
2 hands
from Leafer 1984. If they made an NBA Jam game for the present NBA, which team would be best and which team would be worst? I will say, I don't know if there's a better NBA Jam combo than the Brooklyn Nets fully healthy.
If we're going video game rules by how players in video games are evaluated,
yes.
then the answer is Los Angeles Lakers because you have LeBron and Davis.
Right, but yeah, I mean, it's a great pick. I think Kyrie and KD video game rules. That's pretty tough to stop.
Not a lot of shooting there.
Kevin Durant
and Kyrie Irving.
What are you talking about? Not a lot of shooting. Kevin Durant
and Kyrie Irving,
the most gifted scorer like ever.
He's no Matt Thomas.
Yeah, there you go, Matt Thomas and Terrence Davis. I'm gonna say
I got Brooklyn.
I'm not gonna say best. You guys have good answers for best. I say the most fun one would be the Pelicans, Drew Holiday and Zion.
Another good one.
Yeah.
Drew Holiday would be like
Zion
he's not exactly an NBA Jam player, but Zion would be the most fun player to play with an NBA Jam.
Yes. I also think like at least when I played NBA Jam, I loved just like this sounds insane. Love shooting threes in NBA Jam.
I knew you were going to say that.
Living off the threes.
I'm not running an offense. Just dunking.
Dunk from the 3 point. Yeah. Like, what?
Living off threes. Threes are worth more than twos, man.
I can't believe you said there wasn't enough shooting in a Kevin Durant.
That was a dumb thing to say.
Worst. I mean, this shouldn't be too hard. Phoenix. The thing about Phoenix is you get scoring, though, right?
Yeah, you'd get scoring. Like Ayton and Booker would be a good, or you mix Rubio in there. I think it's the Knicks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Touche.
I think like RJ and Mitchell Robinson just
good players.
Isn't
they're not NBA Jam
every
style.
NBA duo
like you can live a little bit in like 2K20 or whatever with the Knicks, but I don't know if about
the Bulls
NBA
would probably be pretty bad too. Like you'd have Zach LaVine, who at least
he can
would be fun. Yeah,
but like who's the other guy, right?
Yeah,
which is
Lowry
ironic that it's the Bulls considering.
Yeah. I think the Knicks is the worst one.
Yeah,
Wizards maybe.
Bradley Beal though.
Yeah, and John Wall on one leg.
Yeah. But John Wall in video game, though, would be fine.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think it's the Knicks.
Knicks seems like the right
I'm
answer.
always down for the Knicks to be the worst in something.
Yeah.
You don't want 2 power forwards in NBA Jam.
So the Sixers.
You don't want 8 power forwards in the NBA.
Sixers also might be a sneaky bad NBA Jam team. Good basketball team, sneaky bad NBA Jam team.
NBA
a lot of guys who
so
the same. Yeah, but who do you put with them? There's not a lot of shooting there. That one I'm correct about.
Nailed it.
And they're just all kind of the same guy.
Ben Simmons hit 1 preseason 3
against a Chinese team. I want to say.
Yeah.
Yeah. A non-basketball question.
Fuck the Sixers.
Getting into the food from Shanna Planner. Which pastry is best?
I'm a big cheese Danish guy.
Pastry.
Because I'm a Jew.
That's fair. I'm a little picky with the pastries. We judged off air that donuts count.
Of course they count.
So I'm sticking with the donut. I'm a little boring with that kind of stuff. As you know, my dislike for cheesecake.
Yeah. I guess you wouldn't be
not a huge cheesecake, not a huge pastry guy.
I had, I guess it is like a cheese Danish. It was deep fried cream cheese. It was Milton's Donuts in a small town in Ohio.
Huh.
It was the greatest pastry I've ever eaten in my life. I have a photo of it.
I have two pastry caveat questions.
This motherfucker. It's like a pastry, and then the middle, it's like a pastry cup.
That looks perfect.
And the middle was deep fried cream cheese.
That's all I want. That's
unbelievable.
Futures Bakery makes a great cheese Danish in the St. Lawrence Market, if you want that. Two questions about counts as a pastry or not. We counting something like banana bread as a pastry, or is that more of like a treat?
Carlisle, Ohio.
I have no idea.
Banana bread. Is banana bread a pastry?
I don't think it is.
Think so.
I don't think so. And I'm not sure why, but I don't think it is.
I'm going to Google it.
My other answer would be a chocolate babka. If you've never had chocolate babka, you should have some fucking chocolate babka because it's delicious.
Looking like not a pastry.
Yeah, I don't think so. But I don't know why.
But then I think donut maybe is not a pastry.
This is my thing, right? Is because it's not fried? Because like it's baked. But there's lots of baked pastries.
What makes something a pastry is the follow-up
that's
question.
The real question.
A dough of flour, shortening, and water.
All right.
I don't know.
We have a baseball question from Didymus. Will the Angels continue spinning their wheels and wasting Mike Trout with Joe Madden as their manager? I'm going to go with yes.
Absolutely.
Here's the thing about the Angels. They play in the same division as the Houston Astros. Houston Astros are not going to be bad anytime soon.
No. And also, I don't think baseball managers matter as much as people think they do.
Interesting.
I'm not saying they don't matter.
Right.
But I don't think it's like if you're a team on the cusp, I'm not even saying the Angels are on the cusp, but like if you're a team you need like a piece to make the leap, the manager's never going to be the piece. A good manager helps, no question. And Joe Madden, I think, is a good manager. But I don't think it's enough to go from what the Angels are to all of a sudden they're, competing for a playoff spot, as especially to your point against the Houston Astros.
We went through this with the whole Vladdy thing. The thing about Mike Trout is you need 24 other really good players.
Yeah.
Not easy to do. Or unless you're trying to do it, in which case it's not that hard.
I just think
you're 1/24th of the way there were Shohei.
Yes. I think this is something that struck me when I was looking at the playoff rosters of this year's playoff teams. I looked at the St. Louis Cardinals, who, by the way, total bullshit that they got to where they were.
Absolutely.
But basically, they just didn't have really bad players.
Yeah.
Every player.
They also didn't have really good players.
Right.
But they never really bad players.
Goldschmidt was okay, but everybody else was like, the OPS plus was between 95 and 105. It was just 25 pretty good hitters.
Here's the thing: when only 7 teams are trying in baseball,
yeah. Well, their whole division is
becoming the 8th is not all that tough.
Yeah. And with their biggest competition, their division lost the MVP with a month to go in the season, which probably helped their case.
Cubs also fucked off pretty hard,
which they can do anytime. But good teams win World Series with mediocre managers all the time. I see no reason why.
Look at the Nationals.
Exactly.
Davey's not great.
Though the Nationals have a bit of a England in the World Cup scenario going on here, where it's just kind of like, oh, things fell our way.
The thing with the Nationals is they have a bunch of good players.
Yep. They also do.
I think that people are like, how is this team doing it? I was like, I don't know. They have 3 great pitchers and like really good young players.
Yeah. Have you watched Juan Soto have one at bat?
Sick.
Anthony Rendon,
where he looks like he's surfing after every pitch.
The thing I like the most with the Nationals is that most of their good players all look like they're like 38, even though they're not. Like Anthony Rendon looks like an old man, and I appreciate that.
After previously being pretty anti-national.
My only issue with the Nationals, and we'll get into this. My issue with the Nationals is
Montreal.
Yeah, and it's not that it's not they're associated with Montreal. It's that
people from Montreal claim it.
Yeah, and like, why would you? What the fuck does a team who left your city because you couldn't support it 15 years ago have to do with you guys winning? Cheer for the Rays. It seems like that's more probable with your dumb fucking town.
My issue is that like Nationals fans don't seem to be enjoying this that much as they are just like sticking it to Bryce Harper. Like you're going to the World Series, you don't need to like tag Bryce Harper in it.
Nationals fans are bad. That's a thing.
Just
that, like,
live, just enjoy it.
It's a weird Washington D.C. period is a weird city.
Yes,
because it's sort of a transient
and
city.
That team's weird. Like the stadium's located oddly, and
look, there's no good option to win the World Series this year. Is the thing.
I think I'd rather the Nationals than the Houston or New York.
I think I would too, but the Expos thing has got to stop. It has nothing to do with it.
It's not gonna. Jays are going back to Montreal, by the way.
Yeah, I saw. That's fine. To play a preseason game, which they won't sell out because the city can't support a baseball team.
Okay.
Should we talk about the Vancouver Grizzlies also?
Yes. Oh, that's so good. But that's it. Like, would Vancouver be Vancouver people are pissed about that. They wouldn't be celebrating Memphis being good.
I've seen mixed reaction on them bringing back the old school jerseys in court, though. Like, it just looks so cool.
It looks
How can you be
amazing.
mad? Like, Burrows is probably mad, but otherwise...
Well, Burrows is always mad. But, like, would Vancouver celebrate? Well, I mean, Vancouver doesn't care about basketball, so they wouldn't get behind it anyway. But, like, I feel like the attitude of Memphis winning a title and people in Vancouver celebrating it is weird.
I think you'd have
They
people...
They left your city to go somewhere else.
I know. I think Memphis is in a weird spot where, like, they have a lot of, like, Toronto fans because last year you traded all the guys there.
Raptors,
and they have
Raptors
and they have
South.
Bruno and... Yeah, so now they have Bruno, JV, and they added Brandon Clark.
Yeah.
It's like...
But, like, better example of bitter divorces. Would Seattle ever cheer an Oklahoma City title?
No.
Absolutely not. They left your city. If you're an Expos fan, you're cheering the Nationals, you're a fucking idiot. That's what I'm saying.
Okay. There are no Expos fans. Let's get real.
There's people who like pretending to be Expos fans on the internet to...
It's like three of them. There's like three of them.
I have an Expos hat.
Yeah,
Logo.
People have,
It's a great
people have
logo.
the hats. That's about it.
Actually, I have a Vlad Senior Expos jersey, too.
See, that's again, Expos had some great players. Andre Dawson was sick as hell, but fuck the Expos.
Masai Crush Mondays asks us, fans and some media seem to really underrate Kyle Lowry. This is
Blake is actively rolling his eyes.
several E's. Do front offices around the league feel the same? I asked this one because this is something I got in trouble with last year. I put in my mouth. All I said was he wasn't an elite point guard anymore. That's all I said. And everyone was like, oh, look at this hater.
To be fair, he did run off an incredible streak as soon as he
Look
said
at this
it.
hater. Yes, he did. In between that, he scored 0 points in a playoff game. Anyway, here's the thing, right?
I guess if you score the first 11 points in an NBA
Yes.
Finals clinching game, that doesn't really matter if you scored 0 against the Magic ones.
I completely forgot about the 0 points.
Yes,
Because of the Magic.
100%. DJ Augustin had him on a leash. Anyway, here's the thing.
How'd that end?
Here's the thing. Obviously, I don't have any fucking attachment to that take. Anyway, here's the thing, right? And I talked about this in the office. Kyle Lowry is a weird topic because he's hard to properly appreciate, unless you're Blake, obviously, who's doing it right every time. But like, how bad am I allowed to say he is before I'm labeled a hater? Is my question.
I think the issue is he's not bad. You can say he's not. I don't think there's anything wrong with the take that he's not elite. Because I think that's...
Evidently, that is a huge problem. Evidently, that made me...
You also said he was bad.
No, I said he wasn't. I don't think he's an elite point guard anymore. That's what I said. Those are my exact words.
I find it hard to argue with that take. I think he's a good point. I think
people found a way to argue
I think it
with
depends
that
on your...
take.
Well, I think it depends on your definition of elite. Is elite top 5? Is it top 10? Is it top 3? Like...
He's also such a context-dependent player, right? Where like the counting stats, no, he doesn't score like an elite point guard. But also over the last 5 years, he's constantly shifted his game to whatever the offense needed. If you look at impact stats or how the team plays with him on the court versus off, he's consistently been a top 25, if not top 15 player, not point guard. So I guess it like, what do you want from your point guard? And like, I think Lowry at this point, it's pretty clear. He was always going to be best off if he was an elite number 2. And then the DeRozan pairing, DeRozan was not a number 1. So it was kind of awkward to balance those things. I think I said this off air too. I think the line is Kemba. Like as long as you put him on par with Kemba or higher, people won't get too mad at you. Cause like it's
like top 7.
Yeah. I think that's probably roughly the cutoff. Like without listing them off, I think top 7's probably about the mark.
See, you can't list them off because if you listed them off, people would be like, wait a second. People would find the guy that you were wrong about and nail you to a cross for it.
I guess, but also who cares?
It also just makes for poor audio if we sit here and like go through the 30
But no,
teams.
but to your point, like he's not Steph. He's not Kyrie, at least
Here we go.
on offense.
Two.
He's a better defender than Kyrie though. Because Kyrie doesn't play defense. But like then the list gets closer. Like
go ahead.
I mean, he might have one more All-Star game left in him.
He just fucking won a title, played great basketball for 15 wins.
Yeah, absolutely. Patrick McCaw also just won a title. You cannot like, he's an elite shooter.
No, I'm not saying the title makes, but Patrick McCaw was not a contributing factor in that title.
I understand.
Yeah. Lowry was a huge swing piece in the 2 biggest games. The Game 7 against Philly, where he literally almost died throwing himself in front of Joel Embiid over and over again. And then Game 6 of the finals, where he was their best player.
Yeah.
Here's my question about Kyle Lowry.
And like the games that he fouled out, like in the third quarter. I'm just stirring the pot. I have no problem with
Here's my question, genuinely, about Kyle Lowry.
Yes.
If in Game 5 against the Warriors, if his shot that Draymond blocked goes in and he hits a buzzer-beating, finals-winning shot, does this conversation ever come up again?
What's weird is that I feel like if they won Game 5 because of the KD stuff, it just like it would have dramatically changed not just the Lowry thing, but it would have changed how a lot of it got received and felt after. Like it would have been super, like as cool as it would have been to win at home, winning that night the way that night had unfolded would have been really awkward. Like obviously it still would have been awesome. People would have celebrated. The Raptors
they did win the night Clay got hurt though.
It would have had to have been a buzzer beater to overcome that.
People didn't boo Clay.
It's true. Oh my God, I can't believe we're still talking about that.
And like also like the owner of the Warriors was not like breaking down crying at a press conference after the Clay injury and stuff like that.
It's really too bad.
To the person's question,
do the league front offices underrate Lowry the way that fans and some media do?
League front offices, I would say probably not. He didn't have a great market the last time he hit free agency. He thought he was going to get a max. He ended up getting 300 from the Raptors, which, based on the chatter that was out there, was a friendly deal the Raptors gave him relative to what else was out there. There are always more factors than just what dollar amount is this player worth in a vacuum. I think the finals run and meshing with Kawhi last year probably erased any residual like, oh, Lowry's a tough teammate or, oh, it's got to be the right situation. I think everyone knows at this point he can play next to a star. He can accept a smaller role. He can, not get in line, but like the drama goes away when it needs to.
Yeah.
I think, that doesn't make him a super tradable asset with 2 years and $66 million left on his deal now. But there are teams that would talk themselves into that. It's fan bases outside of Toronto that really still don't seem to have any idea. Like someone said the other day, they wouldn't trade Goran Dragic for Kyle Lowry straight up. That was a take that I saw on Twitter.
People have their
I feel like to your point about how Lowry is sort of, he's supposed to be the number 2 guy on the team. Like he's not the
especially
now. But like if you put him on I don't want to say big market because that's wrong because Toronto's a huge market, but a big media team, let's call it. And he's the number 2 guy and they win a title. I think his narrative is very different than him being a number 2 guy in Toronto winning a title.
Yeah, I think that's probably fair.
Like if he does it with fucking, I don't know, the Knicks.
Like if he's LeBron's number 2 in LA or something like that.
Yeah, exactly.
Even if like say he hadn't signed this extension, he hits free agency next summer and signs with his hometown 76ers for the mid-level.
And then wins a title with the yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And then obviously at that point, you're talking about his age 34 season at that point, and he's probably not a number 2 at that point anyway. But yeah, I think there's a weird narrative to
starting point guard on a title winning team.
Yeah.
Like he's
let me say this. Kawhi was excellent, and I wish he was back. And he was obviously their best and most important player. The narrative of it was Kawhi and a bunch of other guys is just like, that's a take from someone who only watched the 76ers series.
Right. Yeah, I think that's fair.
Yeah. That series, a lot of Kawhi.
It was crazy.
Yeah.
But okay. This one will be a little less combative, I feel. This last question. If you only eat one fruit for the next year, which one would you choose?
Pineapple. How else am I going to get that good mouth blood? Seriously, though, pineapple is my favorite fruit.
Really?
Yeah.
I think I'm going mango.
Very goth of you.
Of me?
Yeah, I get the blood fruit.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm going mango. I fucking love mangoes.
Of course, the thing I love the most just wants to hurt me. Of course, I love pineapple.
I thought you would go with blood orange, the most emo fruit.
There you go.
Which are delicious, but are the most emo fruit.
Blueberries? Blueberries fruits?
Yeah. It's a berry. Yeah, it's a fruit.
Blueberries. I love blueberries.
I guess the issue with a pineapple pick is I have a smoothie every morning.
You just pound them.
I don't like eating fruit that much, so I just throw everything in a smoothie every morning and get my fruits and vegetables that way. Pineapple's a bad choice for that.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like I should probably...
A lot of acidity in that.
Yeah, I also just like doesn't take... You also need a ton of pineapple to like make a smoothie. I can't just
make
throw
like
a whole...
virgin pina coladas.
Yeah. I feel like I need a more voluminous fruit as a choice, but on taste alone, I'm picking pineapple.
Yeah, I'm going mango for taste, but also now that I'm thinking about it, mango is like a pain in the ass to prepare. Like just cutting it and getting it out of the skin.
That's why I'm going blueberries. Just shove them in my mouth by the handful.
Yeah. This is our issue with mango and pineapple. Is if it was the only fruit we were able to eat, I feel like we would just not eat very much fruit.
Yeah. And then I would eat and be like, oh, this is great. And I would be exactly like eating fruit now, which is I don't eat a lot of fruit. And then when I do, I'm like, man, I should eat more fruit. And then I don't.
I feel like we should all eat more fruit.
We definitely should eat more fruit.
That's the big takeaway today. And not leave the pineapple in your mouth for too long.
Yeah. I want to know how long it takes to bleed with pineapple.
One way to find out, my friend, and that is jam some pineapple in your mouth and
Just
do
leave
not
it there.
swallow it. See how long it takes you to bleed.
Tune in next week.
Yeah, that's the new beer sponsor is pineapple in your mouth.
Does this freak you out? Jake's mouth is bleeding.
All right, we're rolling along here. We got to get to the goddamn last part of the show. Only one last thing to ask each other, and that is whether we are sad or not sad. We will do that after this. Here we go. One last thing to do is ask whether we're not sad or not sad. But first, review of the week. If you don't know already, you can win a free Boba Fett t-shirt if you get featured as review of the week, as our friend Nick is about to do. Congratulations, Nick. You won a shirt. With this review, the review starts, what freaks me out? When there isn't a new Sportsfeld on my podcast app of choice. 2 exclamation points. Sad, not sad? I say I'm not sad while listening. Sad as soon as it ends. 4 exclamation points. Can't think of any more segments to incorporate. We'll add more when I do. 5 stars. You fellas rock. Congratulations, Nick. You get the Boba Fett tee. If you want to win a
Love when
t-shirt,
it's 5 stars.
you've got to get 5 stars, baby. If you want a t-shirt, just like Nick, head over to your app provider. Head over to your app provider, your podcast provider app, and write us a creative review. And you might be the lucky winner, but maybe you don't want to send a review and maybe you want to spend money on the shirt instead.
You can do that.
I love that idea for you.
Buy some merch.
I love that for you, listener. Go to sportsfeld.ca.
What's more fun than buying merch?
Click on the merch. I don't know. I don't even. We're all wearing merch right now.
It's true, we are.
3 guys wearing merch.
Love merch.
3 guys sitting around wearing merch. And don't forget,
Merchcast.
Brewery of the month this month is Blood Brothers Brewing. Back for another week.
2 weeks.
We got 2 more to go.
2 more.
October, duh.
We should not do the 7% one at 10 in the morning.
Agreed.
Is what I'm gonna say.
Last week we did the Under the
really
House
good,
in
though.
Northern
It is.
Italy.
It's one of my favorite beers, but it's 70%.
It was the Autopop Dry Hop Berliner Rice, 4% ABV. We all enjoyed it quite a bit. Dry hopped with Wakatu and Centennial. Refreshing floral lime aroma, balance acidity, clean finish, low ABV, the perfect session sour. Blood Brothers Bottle Shop, 165 Geary Avenue, 7 days a week, 12 to 11. It's noon to 11 p.m. If you can't make it to the shop, say you're somebody who can't make it to the shop.
Yeah, you got stuff to do.
You're a busy guy. You're
Yeah.
busy buying merch. You're busy buying merch and leaving reviews, which is all we want you to do.
No, you also have to listen to the show.
Of course. Yeah.
3 things.
Blood
That's a lot of things.
Bloodmothersbrewing.com. They deliver to your home.
You don't even have to stop listening to the show while buying merch.
Just binge listen to the show. Listen to every show.
Well,
While you're writing a
Not
review
every
and while
show.
you're buying merch, order the bottles from bloodmothersbrewing.com.
listen to every show from like last February onwards.
And also listen to Wrestling on Pretty.
Yeah. Episode 2 this week.
Episode 2 this week. Whew. We're here. We've made it. It is time for the question of the day, of the week. It's the time for the question. Are you sad? Are you sad or are you not?
Wow.
Are you sad or are you not sad? Anybody want to handle this one first?
Yeah, I'll go.
Go for it.
I don't actually know the answer. I'm not sure if this constitutes sad or not sad. Is what I'm going to say.
Okay.
I have had a sort of nostalgic week. On the weekend, I went over to my parents' house because they were looking to move and went through a bunch of old crap that was at their house of mine from my teen and younger years, and whether or not to throw it out or not, because a lot of it is literal trash. And that just kind of that brings up a lot of like nostalgic stuff, like a lot of photos of myself and kids I grew up with.
Handsome young man.
No, not at all. A lot of like Degrassi era photos.
Yeah, you're on
and shit.
television. How can you say you're not handsome?
Did you see me on fucking television?
Absolutely not.
There you go. But like it was just a lot, and like not even photos, but just like stuff. Like, you know, when you like I found a lot of, I posted on Twitter like my old checkerboard ska wristbands and
Old ones, sure.
Painful.
I like
Look.
that you have old ones, not to denote that they themselves are old, but that you, to contrast to
course.
the new ones you have.
well, yeah, of course, those are clean, and the white is very like white and clear. But no, and then on Tuesday I went to see Against Me at the Danforth Music Hall, which is literally at the end of the street where I grew up, and because I was in this nostalgic mood. I was a little early for the show, and I was walking around. And I went, I'm going to go walk past my old house, and walk past the street. As I said before, the most like mid 2000s punk emo thing to do. Like, I'm going to walk around my neighborhood where I grew up and go see a punk show. Very cliche, I understand. And then saw Against Me play an album front to back, which came out when I was 17 and was a big album for me. 2 doors down from the music store where I bought the album, Mike's Music. Shout out to Mike's Music. That place rules and is still open. One of the last independent good record stores in Toronto. And yeah, I just, it was just, none of this is good or bad. I think it's just been left.
Sensory overload.
It would make a hell of a Wonder Years song.
No
It sure would.
No kidding.
Yeah, it's too bad the Against Me show wasn't a little more emo tinged.
Yeah.
It also wasn't about hating my hometown, so I don't know if that works. But it was just a very like, I've just been feeling very, not even like missing it, because for a lot of those times I was not what I would call a particularly like happy
Just wallowing
child.
in it.
Yeah, and it's not good, it's not bad, it's not longing. It's just very like nostalgic. And I just find it kind of interesting that I feel like aging is a thing that always seemed like sort of an abstract concept when I was younger. And now it's like, oh, a lot of the stuff is from like 20 years ago.
It already happened. You already aged.
That's what I mean. And so it's just kind of, I'm just finding it in, and like now I'm much happier than I was in how this stuff. I'm engaged. I'm professional. Like I'm set in myself more so, which is great. But it's always odd to sort of be taken back down those like weird memory places.
Yeah, I get that a lot when I go home to Cambridge and visit too, or Waterloo or whatever.
Yeah.
It's just, things feel kind of familiar, but not really. And
I'm wondering if that's why this is such a foreign thing to me, because I'm from Toronto. So I don't have that like going home thing.
I also feel like it's an incredibly like autumn feeling. Like it hits, like the air is a little crisper, and that it just like the nostalgia cuts through a little harder.
Yeah, totally.
Well said.
Yeah, even a couple weeks ago, I was going to a show at Danforth with Cassie and Sean and Di, and we went for a beer at the Old Spot pub before, and like I've spent a New Year's Eve there when I was in high school at that bar. It's like, okay,
We went to a bar in high school.
yeah, they didn't card us. I was like 18, but
City kids, man.
Unbelievable.
There's no way I would have lived in a lot of
The
bar.
Lil Bighorn Saloon never would have let me in.
Oh, man. I'm not going to out all the bars that let in underage kids in Toronto, but there were more than 3.
It would have immediately called my mother.
Yeah. See, I was there picking my dad up, so
Is that not a thing? Like you don't go looking for the bars that will let you in, because
there aren't very many bars
what
in
bars?
Cambridge. First of all,
okay.
And like I could get into the bar because my dad knew the bouncers and stuff like that,
Right.
but I couldn't get served drinks. Like it would be like it's fine, like Blake's here to get Ed or whatever.
Right.
But like I
Interesting.
couldn't go in and like go up and order.
Searching for the bar that would serve you without carding in Toronto was like
That's what
was
bush
a thing.
parties are for.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Exactly
see,
right.
we didn't have those.
Exactly right. He's drinking in an empty area. Blake, a follow-up question from my question I asked Jake. Are you sad or not sad?
I'm not sad.
I'd love to hear it.
I went to sportsfeld.ca and bought an incredibly comfortable Bo Bichette t-shirt.
That could be you, listener. You could be.
I loved
Blake.
that.
No, I'm not sad. This is obviously an exciting time of year for me. I didn't get much of a break in the off season, but the new season is always a lot of fun from a work perspective, and from just there's a buzz and an excitement, and get to do things like this. And I think the season will be pretty fun. I also don't have to travel with the team until December because
That's gonna be nice.
Yeah, I really enjoyed like last year was by far the most I've traveled. I really enjoyed it. I learned that I need to pick up healthier habits, like like I think that's something that you have to learn how to do, how to like not go into every city and immediately open up the app and look for the best beers and get restaurant recommendations, and how to, make hotel workouts part of your routine and stuff like that. It's really hard to travel all the time and not put on a ton of weight.
Yeah, I think that comes with traveling a lot, right?
Yeah.
When you don't travel much, you're like, it's an exciting event, and
Yeah.
I have to go do this and that. And then when you're traveling a lot, you're like, I'm just at work.
Yeah. No, I'm looking forward to doing some trips this year. Like I think the first one I'm doing is Philly, Chicago, which 2 awesome cities to hit up. Chuck E. T, if you're listening, you want to grab a beer or something. We'll talk Sixers.
I do really like Philly and Chicago, I won't lie.
Yeah, I do too.
towns.
I wish it's a short trip. I wish I got a little more time in each of them. But no, I'm really excited for the season, obviously. And yeah, that's pretty much it. I know that a lot of the times when I come on here and answer that question, it's a work-related answer, but that tells you a lot about me.
I would expect nothing less. I am going to also say not sad. Although, yeah, similar to sort of Jake, I'm just sort of feeling. Let's not forget that
Feelings.
this is our last pre-election episode.
Oh, no.
Oh man, yeah.
Canadian election on Monday.
Excited for nothing to get better and maybe get slightly worse.
So I guess maybe I want to say not sad because I love the process of the election. I love to watch election.
Really?
coverage. I love elections. I love them.
It doesn't drive you fucking mental watching all this garbage?
No.
Really?
I
envy you.
I find it very interesting. I think it's neat to watch the country shape in real time. My team doesn't always win.
So my team's never won.
Yes.
So.
But I always find it really interesting and to a point that friend of the show, Steve, made in his Instagram post for CBC is we have the luxury of deciding who our leaders are in the first place.
That being said, if you're voting conservative, you probably shouldn't be allowed to vote. That's what I think.
Do you guys vote already?
No, yeah, I'm going to do it on the day.
Yeah, I was going to advance poll, and then the voting station the day of is literally in my apartment building. So I was like, I'll just wait and go downstairs.
I had to get a new passport that I got yesterday. So,
Really?
Yeah. Oh, it's been a whole thing.
I got my license and health card renewed.
Yeah, I lost my passport.
Yuck.
That's the thing. I don't even know how.
Yuck.
Yeah,
I
it
voted.
sucked.
I got my vote in.
Not surprised.
Yeah.
Not surprised.
You have stuff to do though.
Ready to roll.
You don't have the time to stand in line election day. I do.
Again, it's in my apartment building.
Also fair. I mean, it's down the street from my house. It's really not far.
So I didn't want to go to the advanced polling place, considering that I will be home on Monday because I work from home now, and it's like
fair enough.
literally 2 minutes of my day.
That's fair.
Anyway, get out and vote unless you're voting for people I don't want to win.
Last election day, we were at Game 3 of the Jays Royal Series. I remember that.
Federal?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. I'm just like, because
No, not the.
last provincial I was at home.
Yeah, but I remember us
The election
people
bastard.
being in
I
Skydome being like,
binge
who
drank.
won?
Anyway, election Monday. I love an election. I love the gears of it all.
Interesting. I feel like that's genuinely. I feel like in today's hell world, as we say,
Yeah.
that's impressive to not be worn down by it and not like want to just jump out a window.
Yeah, I just feel like
especially this it's been such a cynical election.
I know, but I just feel like everything sucks. I feel like that's such a useless attitude to me.
Yeah, I don't disagree with that.
I would rather learn about it and watch it happen in real time than just sort of wave it away. So I'm going to enjoy that, and then I will bitterly post about it, I'm sure, because I think I know what's going to happen.
Yeah,
I think we all do. But who knows? We could be surprised by 2/3 of the country for the first time ever. Anyway, get out and vote or don't, whatever.
No, just don't if you're voting.
I don't want to grandstand and be like, you have to vote. You don't have to vote. You should.
You should, unless you're
don't have to.
voting for the wrong guys, in which case stay home.
Exactly right. In that vein,
Yeah.
we thank you for voting to listen to the show all the way. It's been a hefty one. It's been a hefty show. This is the longest show we've done in a long time.
Blake's here.
This is old school.
That's my fault. All my answers are so long.
No, your answers are informed.
Usually it's us not knowing anything, so it's a nice change of pace.
The reason our show is short is because us going, do you know? Nah.
No clue. Brewery of the month, Blood Brothers. Buy merch. Listen to shows. Leave a review. Win a shirt, maybe.
Yeah.
Drink Blood Brothers brews. I forget anything else? I think we got it all.
I think that's it.
We got it all. Thank you to Blake. Thank you to Jake. Thank you to Sean and Clay. And especially Dylan for doing actual work. To the intern in the box. And thank you for listening to Sportsfeld.
Sportsfeld!